Awesome.
Thoth is etched into the ground out there, another about 5 minutes away, and it's about close to the size of this living room area. And he's sitting on a spaceship flying through the Milky Way galaxy. Oh man, that's crazy. And the elder surrounded me with these stones that I couldn't touch, but I could sit in the center, and each stone had a star map on it. And everything is going to be open source.
Awesome.
I'm not patenting anything. Once you patent something,
great, man.
You're done. And right now we hit that point where we're getting all these direct rays coming right at us, and we're being inundated with these cosmic rays. This is real science.
Hello and welcome to World Awake TV. Your host and holistic hacker here, Sky Cubby, with Billy Carson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This man researches his stuff. That's why he got a certificate of science from MIT, right?
Yeah.
And there's sacred sites that are turning on now, and you go to these places. You were just telling us about one you went to. The Gosford Glyphs.
Yeah.
And did you get some downloads? Did you get some connection?
Well, I mean, the place is energetic, but I sat inside of a rock portal, which was a great video. I meditated inside of a rock portal that was out there, and the elder surrounded me with these stones that I couldn't touch, but I could sit in the center, and each stone had a star map on it, ancient star maps. And these rocks were multi-layer coated rocks. I don't know how you can multi-layer a rock, and they had things on the underneath the top surface coming through in different sections, these nodes or whatever. These rocks were amazing, but I wasn't allowed to touch any of them.
Really?
Yeah.
And yeah, we were talking about earlier about how the thing is to touch the rocks.
Yeah.
Because like, what was that?
That was in
you were talking about
the Temple of Dendera, the underground crypt at the Temple of Dendera. They have these gigantic magnetic plates with these really thick raised hieroglyphs. Like they come out about this far off the granite, and the whole thing is magnetized, but it's like this wide. Yeah.
And when I was in Peru, it was like, you know, you can see how they kind of just slump down, like they were like a gel or something before, and then they kind of hardened.
Yeah, it's like liquefied rock.
You talked about the layered rocks.
Yeah.
They must use similar kind of technology.
They had to do something just amazing. But yeah, this Gosford Glyphs were Proto-Egyptian, verified Proto-Egyptian. This is not something anybody can just go out there and make up. You know, this is real bona fide stuff.
Awesome.
Thoth is etched into the ground out there, another about 5 minutes away, and it's about close to the size of this living room area. And he's sitting on a spaceship flying through the Milky Way galaxy. Oh man, that's crazy. I can't wait to get that footage edited. It's gonna be great.
I can't wait to see it. Bringing forth the forbidden knowledge. I love the work that you do, especially because we live off grid in Hawaii.
Wow.
And we got all those battery banks, and we're waiting for that free energy already. And I know the places you look and the things you uncover, you tap into some 0 point technology energy. I'd like to just start off asking you a little bit about that, how that's going. You know, we keep hearing about stuff like you're on the cutting edge of that.
There's some amazing stuff that's out there, and some stuff that we're working on right now. We're doing a few white papers on a couple of different technologies. I can't get too in detail, but there is a perpetual motion generator. Now, a lot of people have tried to do a perpetual motion generator with counter-rotating magnetic fields. That's not new, but what is new with what we're doing is adding torque gear ratio and stepping up the power output. That part has been lacking. In other words, people have been able to generate electricity, but to turn on a light bulb and maybe slow trickle charge a cell phone, that's not enough. We're talking about powering a whole home, exactly, or a business.
Because in Hawaii, Bob Blood, I don't know if you know him, but he's kind of an old mad scientist. He said he incarnated from Sirius B.
Wow.
And that he was like advisor to a king on Sirius B. He had open incarnational memory of that.
Wow.
And he was one of these hermits that lived way out in the jungle. And I found him out there. He was really tapped in. He was so tapped in, he had inventions written on little pieces of paper in notepads, like that many of them. Those notepads stacked, rows of notepads, shelves of rows of notepads, all inventions. So he showed me this perpetual motion machine. I saw it for myself, and he said a few different things are working together: tachyon flux, the magnetic, angle, and he would give it a little bit of current, and it was pumping out a lot more current. It was just a little model, though.
Yeah, that's what we have, a small model with a coil and some magnets to keep the the fan, if you want to call it that, or the blade spinning. But now we have some real scientists and physicists working on helping us, make it bigger, make a bigger prototype with torque and gear ratio. That's really the key for us, as far as we can see right now. So I'm excited about that. We're also doing a hydrogen generator that uses a specific type of electrolysis to extract the hydrogen atoms from any type of liquid. So if any liquid whatsoever, it doesn't matter what liquid it is, to extract the hydrogen atoms and push them into another chamber where there's a piston to create combustion.
To make a generator, because I always thought, with my solar panels in Hawaii, if I could just make hydrogen that could run a hydrogen generator, and then take an engine out of a car and put the hydrogen generator in there.
Exactly.
But I did do my best to try. I used the GEAT. Do you remember that?
Oh,
with
yeah.
The plasma generator. I hooked that up to my generator. I got it going. It got so white hot. It was like glowing really bright. I'd run the generator for a little while, and then it would die.
Get out. Yeah, I know. That's the problem with that. Yeah. So, but there's a few things out there. There's a special process where you can actually there's these photocells that extrapolate electromagnetic energy out of the atmosphere. So right now, where we're sitting, there are trillions of electromagnetic waves flowing around us and through us, some from our cell phones, from these electronic devices and everything else. That's the same thing as solar energy, if you have the right type of photocell to capture it.
Is it like tapping into that space between the nucleus and the proton or something like that, or is it
What's it doing?
Vacuum?
Well, actually, no, not but this particular one. That's the next greatest one.
Okay.
But that's tapping into the vector equilibrium. But this one actually captures those electromagnetic waves, which are very easy to detect in modern. We have the science right now for that, and it stores those. It captures it, puts it into this cell, and that cell then transfers it to a pack, and that then pack is like a battery, and it can charge pretty much anything. It can run a TV, it can run a small house even as well. But you have to capture a lot of waves first before you can build up the battery bank. So there's a lot of various different technologies. The ultimate would be to tap into the vector equilibrium. That will, when we get our biggest round of funding and getting our custom-made laboratory and building a gigantic torus, that's probably about maybe 2 or 3 stories tall, then we'll be able to start experimenting, with some of those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I got a ton of questions, but before we get going, just a word out to our sponsors, Medicinal Foods. Got some of the brand represented here. It's my brand, and I wanted to just offer some chocolate to you, which because we put in the mucuna, all the ancient cacao shamans, they knew to balance the formula. So,
hey man,
are you down?
Let me take a piece of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All great events in the past. With the Mayas, the Aztecs, they started with chocolate, so I just want to do this right.
I love it.
Okay, so what does that look like when you have the full torsion field going and you're turning that on? Are we releasing the patents worldwide? Like, how do you protect yourself, and how is that going to roll out?
Good question. Everything is going to be open source.
Awesome.
I'm not patenting anything. Once you patent something,
that's great, man.
You're done. So no patents, no military chasing me down using eminent domain to take away my inventions and all this kind of stuff. We're just going to make it available to everybody. And if you want to buy some from me, you can buy it from me. I'm doing one right now. I have a revolutionary AMG deep cycle battery that I developed. And Nigeria.
Yes, please.
I know you can use those.
Hey, I'm going to be your Hawaii rep, okay?
Hey, listen, man.
All right,
I got to get one to you, man. It weighs about 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And so in the same space as one that only weighs 75 pounds, we're able to increase the amount of copper on the inside. It's waterproof. It doesn't need any maintenance. It can be mounted in any position. Although because it's heavy, I don't recommend mounting it too high. And it'll give you over 400 amp hours of power and sustainable. And you can connect a 3,000 inverter, 3,000 watt inverter to it.
That's my I have an Outback, and I've got 6 the nanocarbons.
Yeah.
And they're all right. They're doing good. If it's cloudy and for a little while, oftentimes I got to fire up the generator.
A little drop, yeah. We have these are also, you can connect, of course, solar and trickle charge by solar. And so it's I mean that's awesome for everyone. Just being able to have a backup, solar energy source. I don't think about it, but I don't pay any electric bill, and I just go ahead and when there's a hurricane or something comes through and no one has power, Yeah, you're good.
Well, I'm good. We don't even notice the power went down.
Yeah,
so
great.
It's helpful. That sun energy. I mean, it comes through the plants. It gives us like amazing stuff for our body and powers our house. So these batteries are 300 amp hours.
A little over 400, like 420 amp hours.
Okay. And what do you think? I mean, are you close to getting them out?
Well, the first one's done, and 2 dignitaries and inspectors flying in from Nigeria next week, and I have a standing order for. I have a standing order for 1 million.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're talking about what do you think retail price will be for that?
Probably around $399 US dollars.
That's in there. That's in there. But not having to maintain it, and
that's the big benefit of it.
That's great. So, and when is your feeling that we're going to really roll out a free energy device?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be somewhere between 2030 and 2040.
About the same time as Contact.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I think that's what Bashar was saying
the
yesterday.
Age of Aquarius. Oh, he was? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, the Age of Aquarius is coming in 2025, and we need a little bit of time after that for some people to flip on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The more they flip on, Bashar's ship, I think, was at like 6,000 miles above, and it's dropping. He said the closer we get to that date, because it changes all the time based on all of our collective consciousness, said the lower the ship goes.
Really?
Yeah, so now it's at 4,000 miles or something like that.
Interesting.
Outside the orbit, yeah. It was really a great channel the other night.
I got to check it out on Gaia, because I'm pretty sure Gaia recorded it.
Yeah, they'll give you the disc, and there's just like, to be able to, he's talking about the simultaneous Earths, every, flashing on and flashing off of existence, that, in my words, but in his words, every a billion times per second. So we always have, I think the Earth life on Earth is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
And you can look at the duality of that and all the terrible stuff, but I just would like to stay focused on that. And the more we stay focused on that, the better things.
I tell people all the time. People are, always, not always, but a lot of people come and they start sending me messages about this is the end times and all this stuff, and I'm like, I think life is a lot better now than it was in the past.
Right.
I mean, the Papal Inquisitions, they killed 80 million people over the course of 700 years. And that's just one thing. And I say, it's just things are getting more obvious because we have technology. So things that were already happening, you're able to see them a lot faster, almost instantaneously because of technology. But in a true reality of looking at real history, going all the way back, we're at probably the best point right now for this particular era of the Earth in this age.
Yeah, and you've looked.
Oh yeah, I've looked. Oh man, I've looked back. There's some horrors, man. There's some real significant horrors. So many times humanity has almost been completely wiped out, not just by natural disasters, but also even by plagues and disease. At one time, global slavery, which had nothing to do with the more recent slavery that occurred. And of course, the Inquisitions. You have the things are just so vast.
Bashar was saying, hindsight 2020. Someone said, does this year really have significance? He said, this is the pivot year. He said, both in the vision, it means 2020 vision, and then hindsight is 2020. He was saying that it's really a pivotal, this is the time in our lives to look at what we really want to bring into this world and what we're ready to let go of. Look back on the cycles like the Atlantean times. I know you spent a lot of time with that, and
there was a lot of wars back then.
The Book of Thoth, the Emerald Tablets, and brought forth a lot of that info. So do you see it as like a spiral of time that we're hitting on similar things where there was catastrophic things, but it not necessarily needs to be catastrophic this time around?
Yeah, well,
in our DNA?
One of the things that I've researched now and come to understand is that we've been in this big cycle, this loop, right? Where it rise and fall of civilizations. Thoth talks about it also in the Emerald Tablets. He even went to other planets and watched other civilizations on different planets rise and fall. So this is obviously something that's pretty common. But one thing, I've read 1,000 cylinder scrolls, cuneiform tablets, papyruses, scriptures, ancient records and texts, you name it. And nowhere in any of those does it ever say we have to keep falling. Nowhere does it say that.
I see it as a spiral.
Yeah.
So it looks like a circle, but really we're spiraling and we don't have to.
We can get to a point in a spiral, an upward spiral, where we can sustain a golden age level of consciousness and technology as well. And that's really where where we're headed and where we need to go to. People get the illusion that we're not going to get there or that it's taking too long, but just like when a baby's crawling it starts to take a few steps. And when it takes those first few steps, it falls down right away. Then it gets up again. Now the brain remembers, oh, balance here, balance there. It takes a few more steps, falls again. After maybe incurs an obstacle in the playing area or whatever, it's trying to step over a toy, falls again. But eventually the baby learns to walk and step over things, and then eventually learns to run. And that's what we are. We're babies, and we're getting into that walking stage right now, and we're stumbling a little bit. So it's going to be an illusion that we're falling back down, but in reality we're learning. And that's really what people have to figure out.
Have you gotten into, in all of your research, the Azurite Temple?
No, I haven't gotten into Azurite Temple. Yeah, that's actually on my list, but I haven't gotten into Azurite Temple yet. Yeah.
They talk about Thoth. They talk about the 900 billion year law of one materials, and they present this cosmology like here's Earth. In dimensions, 1, 2, and 3. Then dimensions 4, 5, and 6 is second density. 7, 8, 9, third density. It goes up to the fifth density where you exit the pre-matter liquid light, and it says we exist on all those levels.
We do, yeah.
And we have our higher self, our oversoul, avatar, and rishi self, and all those different levels. I really like the chelantic morphogenetic science of it, but like anything, there's twists and turns, and people, where they talk about the highest fallen angelic realms being Enoch, Archangel Michael, like these great beings came in too much of their density, incarnated, and they lost touch, and they actually became fallen.
Right.
And he said, they talked about Thoth in that way, like, and so I'm trying to clear up if any negativity around him. For the most part, he's a pretty benevolent being that has helped.
Oh, extremely benevolent, which is the reason why I was so intrigued by the work, because all the work that I've read of Thoth and Hermes, he had an opportunity. I'll give you an example. He had an opportunity to proclaim himself as a god. He was told to go to the land of Chem and help raise Chem back to a high level of civilization after the Great Flood had started to reside. He gets there, he lands his ship because he descends down on the Great Temple. He opens the doors. These people, who he called hairy barbarians, came to attack him. He picks up his staff and sends out a ray of vibration and stops them from attacking. And then he releases them and he starts to talk peace with them, and he shows them his magic science, which translates into advanced technology. Here's a little flip phone, here's a little doodad, here's my watch, whatever. These people start groveling at his feet. And he says, wait, stop, get up. I'm not God, I'm a son of Atlantis. And I'm here to help you bring your civilization back to a high level. So at that moment, he had an opportunity, right? He had a moment to say, hey, yeah, pray to me and I'm your God and everything else. But nowhere does he ever do that. He's always talking about mankind's ability to ascend to an extremely high level, maybe even higher than him, and travel the universe through consciousness and all these great things that we're capable of doing. And his ultimate goal is to see us rise to that level. So that's not a person masquerading as God.
There does seem to be some similarities between him and the blue avian being that Corey Good talks about. Do you think that they're the same being?
I don't know. I never really got that out of it, but Thoth is always depicted as an ibis bird with the beak, and that beak represents the ibis who has to put his beak deep into the mud. So they put their beak deep in the mud to bring the sustenance up. So it's what it's saying is it's an allegory kind of saying we have to go into darkness to bring darkness to light. Not
necessarily a blue bird.
Right,
being.
Necessarily, yeah. And he has a face of a man because. His dad ordered him to build the Great Sphinx, to align it with the constellation of Leo, which was the time that he was allowed to rule over Egypt, and to put his face on it. Later, because of the battles with him and his brother, Amun-Ra, his dad kicked him out of Egypt and told him to go to Mesoamerica and kickstart civilization over there. He said, you and your brother are fighting too much. His brother then recarved the face of the Sphinx, which is why it's got a small head on it. It wasn't a lion, it was a face of a man, of Thoth. Right. Later, it was recarved to his brother's son or his nephew's face. That's the face of the Sphinx right now, his nephew. Yeah.
Because the guardian race, the creator beings, whatever you want to call them, that created the pyramids and probably a lot of the sacred sites in the beginning are not the ones that came in later on, right? Because the pharaohs and the people came in and they kind of occupied it and did their thing. They did a lot of weird stuff during the Egyptian times, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of the more, during the dynastic era, they kind of really inherited everything that was already there. A lot of this ancient stone technology was already there and built many tens of thousands of years ago. The Sphinx itself, in my opinion, based off of my research, is about 36 to 40,000 years old.
So obviously there was a flood that came through. We had this astrological conference in Hawaii, and it was called the River of Stars. What happened is this woman came out in Africa, and she was with a group and surrounded by a pride of lions, and they felt like they were about to get eaten. And this medicine woman came out of the darkness and pointed to her and said, "You are here to be the keeper of the white lions, Linda Tucker." And she ended up preserving it, because they shoot the white lions out there for game or for trophies.
Oh, man.
And she ended up preserving all these white lions, and she taught us about some of the mysteries of the Nile and also with the pyramids. And these pyramids are coming. They're kind of done, but there's sacred sites that are turning on now. And you go to these places. You were just telling us about one you went to. Do you feel like they're activating now? Do you feel like they're turning on?
Some of them, some of the technology was removed from some of these ancient sites, and some of them it was never removed, maybe because it was too hard to access, or they decided to bury it. As time goes on and some of these things begin to come back to light, or some of these places begin to move into a specific, as our solar system moves into a specific area, which we are right now, this galactic equator, where there's a lot of cosmic rays streaming out from the galactic center towards our planet and hitting our planet, it could reactivate some of this ancient stone technology, and also reactivate some things inside our own DNA as well.
Well, we just looked at the pulsing of the galactic core almost overnight. It's 16,000 light years away,
across,
which happens to be the last cycle, the last precession of the equinoxes.
Right.
So it's kind of saying to us we're due for another.
Right. It's this great cycle, and we hit this. We got close to that equator of that galactic supermassive black hole around 2012, because our solar system kind of undulates around the galactic disk. It undulates up and down, kind of like a snake or whatever you want to call it. And right now we hit that point where we're getting all these direct rays coming right at us, and we're being inundated with these cosmic rays. This is real science.
So do you think it's going to be an awakening of consciousness, or there's going to actually be like some massive planetary changes, or maybe a little bit of both?